Is India and China the models that Africa should be aspiring to, including South Africa? If so, what is currently stopping us, even at a micro scale? And realistically speaking, sorry, I also wanted to ask if you're on more paper.
No, I'm
And
good.
realistically speaking, are we willing to pay the price that those countries paid? Including things like maybe enslaving your own people, pushing them to do things they don't want, potentially having what we hope are benevolent dictators, revolutionizing education, forcing people to do things they don't want because you have a bigger vision for them. Maybe really, really woeful labor practices, stealing IP, counterfeit goods, which, Hong Kong's became a thing. And the fact that India still to this day has got a caste system with slaves where we're like, we will push our own people because we have a national agenda where if we're not enslaving our own people, they're going to keep leaving and we're never going to develop this country. Is India and China the models that we should be aspiring to? And if the answer is no, then what is the model we're meant to be aspiring to? And what is the African agenda according to you?
No, thank you so much. Take China, for example. If you've been to the country, one of the things that you would know is that whether if you're there to study or just a visitor, the Chinese Communist Party, they would always insist that ours is socialism with Chinese characteristics. And one of the key things that they often speak to is localizing your problems and localizing them to deal with your material condition. So
localizing problems or solutions, or both?
Localizing your problems and solutions.
Okay,
Thank you. So you cannot, and I think Julius Nyerere says it very well. He says that we have tried everything as Africans. We have tried socialism. We have tried capitalism. We have tried everything that is not ours, but we have still not emerged as a superpower. And for me, I do not think it's about taking what everything that China has done or everything that India has done. We have an opportunity to learn from other countries. We have an opportunity to look at China. We have an opportunity to look at India. The very same way we have been using Western models. We have an opportunity to look at those models and to see what can work best for us and to experiment with all these ideas and modalities. We don't have to take everything. I mean, if you look at China, for example, after the era of Chairman Mao, they went to Japan. They went to all these other countries to learn what those countries are doing.
Correct.
And we can have, obviously, an external view of what they did and whether the methods that they used were correct. But eventually, we must then say, if you look at China and their education system and their technological innovation, which they mainly learned from Japan, because one thing about China is that they do not reinvent the wheel.
Sure.
You speak of IP and so forth. They just go to a particular country. They learn what that country. They take their people.
Works.
Yes, they copy what works and they make it better. Look at the cars. Look at the cars that are being driven in South Africa. This look like expensive cars.
About Beijing.
Yes.
About Bake.
Yes.
China's coming in hard.
Yes. So China is a good model for innovation.
Okay.
China is a good model for reform. China is a good model for regeneration. So we can take those things. But I think also one thing that I missed is China is a good model for discipline. Because the people in China are highly disciplined.
But the discipline comes with Indugu.
It's okay.
Are we willing to punish our people the way they're meant to be punished to make sure that things get done?
Not punishment. It's the same.
They have the death penalty for corruption there as an example.
Yeah, okay, that's something else. But what I mean is, including India, one of the reasons why Indian executives are highly sought out for is primarily because of their discipline. So those are some of the things that we can learn as, South Africa and as the continent. We can learn things that are serious gaps in the continent. So we don't actually have to take everything that they have done, but there are things that we can take from those countries. Especially for me, if you look at India, what India has done with its population is that it has turned it into talent. So everything that is done in India is to ensure that they turn their population into human potential. So they are still, these are countries no different to us, which are reeling from centuries of colonialism. So they also have our problem. We also have, if you speak of the caste system in India, we also have our own challenges in the continent. If you look at the colored challenge, if you look at the yellow bone, these are simplistic, but I'm just saying that we still have our own challenges, including as Africans.
Yeah, tribalism, colorism, mixed race, etc.
Yes, so we do have those challenges. But for me, when it comes to China, there is no country in the world that has invested in Africa like China. People can call it the second or the third scramble for Africa, but there is no country in the entire world that has put so much money in the continent. If not for China, the bridges that are there in the continent, the roads that are there in the African continent, they wouldn't be here if China had not taken a decision to say that if we are going to form a partnership, a mutually beneficial partnership with Africa, we must start putting money so that Africa can develop. You cannot develop without infrastructure. And China is the only country in the world which has said that we're not going to put financial aid in Africa. We're going to ensure that we change the lives of their people because they need hospitals. But they come, what they say is we're going to help you build an airport, but we are giving you 20 years. If within 20 years you have not paid it off and you have stolen the monies, we're going to take that airport. And I guess that's what we mean, because that's what when I speak about discipline, our leaders get money, they eat the money. They get money.
This sounds like neo-colonialism, and I can't, listening to you, believe that it's with good intentions. Because similarly, look, they may not be brutal and violent like previous colonizers, but the idea of building infrastructure here is for them to be able to comfortably move our resources to them. And when you speak about business partnership, I don't know if they are paying us a premium for our resources more than the West. I don't know if they will let us sit on some of their boards, if they are willing to let us run our businesses with them. So they may look like friendlier capturers, and if that's what we want, that's fine. But I cannot believe that it comes from a genuine place where they genuinely want Africa to benefit.
Remember, China owes us nothing.
Sure.
But if they can build the roads, if they can build the dams, if they can build the airports, which were never there, who would ever do that for you if your own leaders are not prepared to do that?
But are they doing it for Africans or for their own?
No. Whether they owe us nothing, but what they leave are legacies. These are infrastructures. You cannot create wealth if you don't have infrastructure.
But colonizers also built infrastructure on the continent. Like the roads and stuff we have now.
Are you talking about South Africa?
Airports, highways, whatever infrastructure we had on the continent before China.
No. There are not many countries in the continent which have the infrastructure that these countries have now. If you go to Kenya,
that's the argument for neo-colonialism.
No, it's not. Call it neo-colonial. Call it what you call it. Define it as you want to define it. But what I'm saying to you is that we need investors. Like the continent needs investors, and the investment can come from IMF, it can come from the World Bank, it can come from China. But what we have seen is that the investment, for example, from the IMF has not gone towards infrastructure. It has not gone. That's why Africa is still at the bottom of the pit. But now what you have is that you have different friends who are saying that we are prepared to assist you. But these things, they come with conditions, but the conditions are in the interest of your people.
You believe that?
No, yes, I do.
Okay.
No, yes, I definitely do. Because what we have seen is that we have seen false generosity from the West. That's what we have observed. And also, if you look at, I would mainly speak of China because China is the one that has put more efforts. They are saying that we are giving you this in the interest of your people, but we also want to benefit. That's how we should also interact with China. We must say to China, we have this raw material, but we want to build our own refineries. So that is the conversation that we are supposed to be having. I might not agree with Rwanda. I might have, my issues with Rwanda. But that's what Rwanda is doing. Rwanda is saying, okay, I won't go into detail on where they get their diamonds and some of the minerals.
Jeez.
Yes. But Rwanda is producing. So Rwanda is saying, you can build, the refineries, you can build the bridges, but ultimately we want to produce. So that is the mentality that we need in the continent. It must be, I give you, I take from you, and you also take from me. So that's what China is doing. So if our leaders are not able to have this conversation with their partners, then it means there's a problem with them. But I'm saying that ultimately we've not had a conducive relationship with the West. They've been taking from us. They've been stealing from us. They have been, instigating wars in the continent to ensure that Africa does not develop. Now, when you've got friends from the East, because we've tried the West. It's not like Africa has not tried the West. But what do we have to show for our relationship with the West? Despite the limitations of China and India, we can see a bit of progress. And that is why many member states are moving towards BRICS, because they want a level of autonomy. They want some independence. They don't want the IMF that speaks to Africa and say that if we give you your money, you must privatize, you must sell this. That's not what China is doing.
Yeah, the
China,
IMF and the World Bank have conditions that go beyond general trade agreements.
So in South Africa, for example, they will say, we'll give you money for this just transition. But we can only give you money if you close or if you shut down ESCOM, if you decommission, if you shut down your coal power stations. China and India are not saying that. They are not controlling your policies, your economic policies. Yeah. What they want a mutually beneficial relationship. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, because they owe us nothing. They owe Africa nothing. But we can build a relationship built on commonality, that is built on common good, and that is built on developing society.